will start in the same way as the previous one, namely if you can introduce yourself and tell you what is your role in music business.
Hi, my name's Kim, and I usually like to introduce myself as the woman that slept on the levee of Motorhead for 10 years of my life. Now, you could take that any way you like, but it was on a tour bus, and his bump was in the middle, and I was underneath. But take it which way you like. Secondly, after listening to all these other women and girls I should call them more, with all their experiences, I just think it's fantastic, because I felt like I needed a Zimmer frame, though, because I feel so old. I'm 62 years old, and I started my career in 1979. So I've seen many, many changes within the music industry, and that's me.
Hi, my name is Rachel Parsons. I work at More Music as the Youth Programmes Manager there, where I run music projects for young people aged between 6 to 25. We encourage people to be in bands. I run a girls-only project called Girls Can, which is our initiative to kind of address the imbalance within the music industry. We're kind of focusing on 14 to 19-year-old young women to try and encourage them to have the confidence to pursue their passion in music. We cover all areas from songwriting and production to tech. We've got an all-girl tech team now out of that project at More Music who will give, which is fab. As a musician, I played classical violin and piano, and then at the age of 13 decided to play the drums. And then I joined an all-girl punk band called Angelica, and we toured in the 90s. One of the very few, there weren't many actually all-girl bands, so yeah, that's exciting. So did that for 9 years, played in various other bands, trained as a youth worker, and now I kind of combine my love of music and working with young people.
Hi, I'm Cath. I'm part of the leadership team for our Lancashire Music Service and Music Hub. I manage a team of music teachers who are in schools teaching lessons every day. I manage a team of leaders that go and deliver workshops and one-off sessions. And I also look after all of our out-of-school, so our bands and our orchestras and our brass bands and our jazz stuff that we do. So it's a many and varied job. I worked for many years in venues as a learning participation manager, so I come from the sort of non-formal sector of education. And prior to that, I studied jazz music, and I was a saxophonist, playing and teaching, before I got into kind of project management and leading workshops and managing programs. So that's good.
I feel I should develop a portfolio career because mine has been very linear. I qualified as a lawyer in '82, and I'm still doing it 40 years later. My name is Anne Harrison. I'm also, however, I suppose I have a mini portfolio career because in 2020 I published a book called Music the Business, and I feel very blessed that it has become the textbook for all music courses in this country. And off the back of that, I met great people like Tony and Eva, and we co-edited a book last year for Bloomsbury, New York, on the future of music and law, and whether the law is keeping up with changes in technology, which is a fascinating experience to see there was chapters on every single aspect of potential future developments in music. My client base is all artists. I don't act for the major corporations, I'm usually up against them. And if anything, I have been the benefit of gender bias in my favour, because a very large proportion of my clients are female artists who choose to work with another female as their lawyer. So, if anything, I've kind of benefited for my sex in that regard.
Thank you. In the previous panel, there was a lot of talk about the need for female-owned space and for networking of women. but actually most of you have an experience of working both with men and women. And actually, I would like to ask you about your experience of working with men and how you managed to gain their respect, because I believe you have to do it to be successful. Maybe can you start with you?
I got my first job in the music industry because I was a brunette. It's hard to believe now, but when I was 18, 19 years of age, I was brunette, and that's how I got my first job. The reason being was they were looking for merchandisers to sell at rock concerts. And I was very lucky. I got a job with a company called Holy T-shirts, which were the third largest merchandising company in the country at the time, which was in London. Now, for anybody that's thinking you've got to be there, you've got to be in the place, I was born and brought up in a village not far from here called Hesketh Bank. Nobody's heard of Hesketh Bank. So you have excellence. Okay, you've got one person that's heard of Hesketh Bank. So as you can imagine, who on earth goes from Hesketh Bank to getting a job in the music industry in the 1970s? Nobody. I can't play an instrument. I can't sing. I'm tone deaf. But I got the job because I was a brunette, which is totally wrong, because I wanted to be an astronaut. But women in the 70s were told, you can't do that. And I was told, like many other people, that I was a nice shop job would be good. And when I said I don't want to work in a shop, they turned around and said, well, a department store, something a bit more upmarket. It doesn't have to be the local food shop. So I guess I kind of did, in a way. I did start my surf, like I say, my first job was merchandiser. Now, like brunette. So, because I was a brunette, they wanted a blonde and a brunette to sell to rock men that were coming in to watch rock bands, basically. So that's how it happened. From that, I was then in the right place at the right time. Because being a merchandiser, we were in Europe for a lot of the time. And this is before you guys say, oh, Europe's really bad now because you come out. Yeah, we hadn't even gone in at the time that we were doing this. So we were on our first big, well, I wouldn't say first, but it was on a tour that was called No Sleep Till Hammersmith. And it was basically with Motorhead, we did 13 countries in 13 days. So the tour manager got so confused that he was like, is this Krona from Sweden, where the hell's this from? What's this? Where's this? Where did that come from? And he said, you'll know, because obviously selling T-shirts, I knew the currencies. I then became a tour accountant. So right place, right time. From being a tour accountant, Motorhead, as you know, were really known for their outrageousness. Their tour manager had enough with one day to go. And we were just before Christmas, and basically we were told there wouldn't be a tour manager coming out, it's too late. So the manager said to me, Kim, you know what to do, just do it. I didn't know what to do, but I thought, yeah, I can do this, I'll do this. So I did it. I went home that night having a phone call from the United States 2 weeks later saying to me, I believe you're a female tour manager, we can't find any. There aren't any in America. Can you get on a plane and come over there? So I did, right place, right time. I then became one of the very first female tour managers in the world. There were 6 at the time. 4 of them were married to managers, so they weren't even tour managers as such. The managers actually used to say, I'll just get you, come along, we'll pay you, whatever, but I'll do the work. And that's how it was all the way back then. So my career then went on and on and on, and because of those 10 years with Motorhead, and I know I keep saying this, but I also need to say that I hate heavy metal. I cannot stand heavy metal. But I say that because it's not always a good thing if you want to go behind the scenes to work with a band that you like. Because are you ever going to get any work done is one of the things. So you probably wouldn't. anyway, so I went from that, and then because of what I'd seen through all my experiences, I had people then coming to me going, we have a problem. Major record companies came to me, Capital from LA came to me and go, we've got this band and they're doing this, how can we sort it out? And just had this huge advance, and now they need to pay it back. The problem is, we can't get them to do this, we don't know what's going wrong. So I would go out for a bit, have a look, find out their problems, sort them out, and go home again. So then I did that for many years, and yes, the men I met along the way were awful, horrible men. I've been picked on so many times. I walked into venues, sat in a flight case in Madison Square Gardens, and the whole union wanted to walk out because what's that woman doing sitting on that flight case? She shouldn't be sat on that flight case. She moved it. You know, so, and there's a woman sitting, but it was basically because they weren't used to seeing us there. That's all it was. Did I have to work twice as hard as the man next to me? Yes, I did. And I'll say that because I wanted to prove myself that I could do a better job than him. And it's not just about men against women either, because if anybody knows or if anybody works on that side of touring, the job to have is to become the tour manager, the person in charge. So everybody's after your job. Male, female, alien, it doesn't matter. Everybody was after your job. So you had to work twice as hard. So that's what I did. I had people laugh at me, calling me Lenny's girlfriend, which I've always found was an insult. I had people say all these horrible, nasty things to me as I walked past. But then I used to turn around and go, hey, you know what? You can say what you like, but I'm the woman in charge today. So, that's it.
I think that what you're saying, you do have to work twice as hard. Oh, I feel like sometimes you have to work twice as hard to prove that I can do my job. But I think what you're saying, just doing it and taking the opportunities that come up all the time. So I'm sure there's loads of opportunities that will come out of just being in this room and gaining real life experience and in whatever area you want to work in, and then you can develop that self-confidence to know you can do it. And then if someone comes up to you and says, what are you doing, you can't do that, you'll know within yourself, yeah, I can do that, and I've done it, and I've had the experience, and I'm going to do that. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Lots of people have, said, oh, what have you done in your band? And I can wholeheartedly say I've done a John Peel session. And lots of people can't say that now. So that's like my claim to fame. I've done a Peel session. It's fine. So yeah, just taking opportunities that come and building your confidence, so that you've got enough confidence within yourself to fight those battles if they come.
Yeah. I hear what Kim says, and kind of what Rich says a little bit as well, about the mental load that you kind of feel like you have to take on as a woman. I think that probably you can relate to that at home maybe as well. But certainly at work, just having to kind of feel like you're on top of everything and across everything. And I think that's something that I've adopted more recently. And it's interesting looking back to where that comes from and how your interactions have changed, because I don't think as a female instrumentalist, and as a jazz musician, improvising musician, composer, I didn't come up against any gender-based barriers until probably I was about 14, 15 when I started getting put in a room with a lot of other advanced musicians. And I was really lucky. I mean, that's an amazing thing to be able to say that. I didn't get that from my parents, I didn't get that from the school. I was from always, yes, you can do this, and push forward and encouraged. But I think it was almost more of a shock then when it did start becoming a barrier. And there's sort of a thing growing up in the 90s as well, with that sort of ladette culture and just being one of the lads, and I didn't want people to see me any differently for being a female musician, but people did. And so I still have this kind of utopian vision where we don't need women's festivals and we don't need to sort of create female spaces, because it's just not an issue. You're not a female saxophonist, you're just a saxophonist. It's like a comedian. You're not a female comedian, you're just a comedian. So I think that kind of experience has formed how I kind of maybe approach working with our colleagues. And managing music teachers now is really interesting as well, because as you can imagine, we have people from right across the kind of generations. We have people sort of who were teaching back 20 years ago when I was at school and in the whole music education system, who were the people that I came up against and found were sort of defining me by my gender. And so now having to manage those kind of people is a really interesting dynamic. And something that I've found very recently, and certainly with some of the music leaders that are leading our kind of older ensembles, so like we had a fantastic female conductor. Unfortunately she left. We've got an equally brilliant conductor that's come in, but she's now making it as a female conductor, and she led our youth orchestra for 6 years. Our brass band leader, and brass bands are a kind of, I don't know, you might see them as a sort of enclave of quite masculine sort of energy, but our brass band leader is a female tuba player who is just a force of nature, and she's in her 60s now as well. She's outdoor swimming every morning. She'll send me pictures of her outdoor swimming, and she just leads by example and just brings people with her. And it's been an absolute pleasure to find those members of my team and my staff who are on the same page as I am and are pushing that agenda forward and are almost unconsciously just being those role models and making it happen for the next generation of female musicians. So, yeah.
Thank you. I think it comes from training as a lawyer, but I'm going to challenge what Eva said. You said, how did I get men to respect me? I don't see it like that. I went my own path. I became the best lawyer I knew to be. I learned from whoever it was, male, female, whoever would teach me. I would go at night and I'd take files of people's desks and I wouldn't give them back. I would just prove I could do that work. They should be respecting. What did they do for me to respect working with them? Did they deserve my time, in other words? And I also, there are an awful lot of male lawyers and there are very few female lawyers worldwide. I think there are only 3 in the UK at my level. And that hasn't really changed in the last 30 years. What has changed is that we have a generation coming through with some very, very strong female lawyers in it. And what did change, because I was not always a music lawyer, when I became a music lawyer in 1988, I got harder, almost overnight. I realised that I would need to change if I wanted to fulfil my ambitions. I didn't become more male than male, I did it my own way. Because most people in the industry pick up new clients at gigs. There's a drinking culture, there's a cocaine culture, which is not as bad now, but it's still there. And if you did not want to participate in that, and I did not, then I had to find another way to be visible. So I didn't choose the male path. I chose becoming visible, A, through being very good at what I did, and B, through actually lecturing, writing articles, showing people, writing for Music Week, just, drawing attention. But the best recommendation is always do a good job and then the artist will talk about it. And that's whether you're male or female. I got a great deal of support from men in my industry. There weren't very many. I learned from the best male lawyers in the business, and I give them all credit for that. They were very generous with their time. But I never saw myself as needing to prove anything to a man. I needed to prove myself to my clients. That was all. And that still is the way I approach things. But I will also hire the best. So I work as a consultant in a West End law firm at the moment. And we will hire the best for that job, whether it's male or female. I will not do gender bias in favour of a woman unless they are absolutely equal as candidates. But what I will do once they're employed is I will mentor them, and I will not put up the ladder behind myself and say, I did it my way, you've got to find your own way. I will mentor them, I will help them, because there weren't very many people around to help me when I started, and there are still relatively few senior role models, and therefore I feel a duty to give back. I'm not, if you think about Margaret Thatcher, she got to the top, she could have made such a difference in politics for us. she pulled the ladder up behind her and nothing changed. So I don't want to be that person. I want to finish. And I know we've gone the ages route a bit, but I think I'm the oldest in all the panel. Sorry, Kim, I outranked you by a couple of years. So I'm reaching the end of my career now, and I look back with pride at the number of women that have come forward, both artists and lawyers. So the guys need to respect me, not the other way around.
Yes, just a bit following up from this issue. Did you find it a different experience to work with female and male artists? This is a question particularly to Kim and Anne, but perhaps to everybody.
Yeah, the males actually were easier. I hate to say it, girls, but the males were easier. Whether I just got divas, I don't know. But then again, you're going to hate this too, the artists that are in the room. Artists are hard work, yes. Okay, you're hard work, and so it takes a certain person to actually be able to deal with that. You have demands, whatever you are, what sex you are, you've both got demands in different areas. Don't think that men can be more naughty than girls, because I had one lady that actually had me throw Madonna off a stage and ruined Hugh Hefner's limousine. So, and virtually had a flight on the way to Australia, turned back because of what she was up to. So I don't know. I've never, whether it is an age thing that we talk, that we look back, and because we were just had to be, push ourselves forwards. But I've never actually thought about men and women as being different, and that might hurt some people. Whoa, that's how come? Why are we not pushing the female thing? If you are the best, like I said, if you're the best at what you do, who cares? And if you love that job so much, you're gonna put 100% in. If you don't put 100%, then don't whine and say, there are not enough women doing this, or there are not enough women, or not enough support for that. Don't do that, because you won't get my sympathy. We were women that had to do it in an era where women didn't. So I find sometimes it insulting when women turn around and go, hey, why are there not enough women doing this? And I turn around and I bluntly say, because you're not damn good enough. So that is something to think about, that you have to be good at whatever job you do, whatever gender you are. And yeah.
I'm just agreeing with most of what you say, Ken, but I will say that I think the professional side of this business has a very different experience from the creative artist, performer side of things. Being a lawyer, I'm hardly likely to be locked in a studio and told to, perform. They are going to be afraid of me because I'm a lawyer and I know my law, and I know my rights. So I'm never going to be in that power imbalance, which I think does exist within, the record company execs versus a young female artist, for example. So I do think the professional side has a different set of criteria to it, the business side, if you like. But I didn't know any different. You couldn't train to be a music lawyer in the last century when I started. I just fell into it. And I suppose that would be another message is take your chances. I made some ridiculous errors in my career. I ended up for 2 years clearing little old ladies off a Scarborough holiday camp for rank. I spent every week in a hotel in Scarborough going to court to kick these little old ladies out of their shallows that they shouldn't have been living in fighting. So, that wasn't a good high point in my life, but I learned from it, I took from it. So I don't think any wrong turning is a mistake if you learn from it. So if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. just recognise it as a mistake, see if you can learn anything from it, see if you can stop yourself making that mistake again. And yes, that comes with age, but it also comes from listening to your instincts a lot too, because I was told that I couldn't leave this job that had been missold me, this Ivy camp, because it would look bad on my CV. And I believed them, so I stuck that job out for 2 years. I now realise, looking back, I should have gone instantly and gone and taken the film law job that I thought I was getting. So, you know, yes, age and looking back does give you different experiences of this. But in terms of working between female clients and male clients, I do have a high proportion of female clients. They are not necessarily any more difficult in terms of what they demand. Sometimes it's harder to find out what they want though, because they're not as vocal. The guys will always tell me what they want. They will always say, I want this, that and the other, and I want it yesterday. Sometimes it takes me a lot longer. I have to sit with coffee and tease out why. You know, is it creative that you're after? Or are you just a breadhead? Tell me, I need to know this because I can't help you unless I know. And so you can help yourselves by actually being a lot more assertive about your needs and requirements. Very low self-esteem amongst female artists. The imposter syndrome that somebody mentioned earlier, very, very definitely there. And I don't see it as much amongst the guys. In fact, not at all. They know what they want. They know what they want when they come through the door. Women, it takes me longer to give them the self-belief that they can ask for more money, that they can ask for better creative controls. They have to, you know, it takes a longer process for them to trust me that they can ask for these things. They don't have to assume that they've got to wait till I give them. You know, that's an assertiveness issue, isn't it?
Yeah, I just coming on something the assertiveness thing is really interesting, because I think it goes really, really far back in the way that boys are encouraged to, in a jazz context, stand up and improvise, stand up and be creative, be that kind of risk taker. And girls really aren't, and whether that's music or sport or whatever that might be. And I think that runs really, really deep in kind of culture and society. And this idea of the differences between men and women, or male characteristics and female characteristics, it's interesting how, when that's helpful and when that's useful to point out, and when it actually just gives men an excuse to carry on being, you know, not on the admin, or, you know, a little bit kind of assertive, you know, on the wrong side of assertive. So I think it's, I'm really interested as well in the neuroscience behind it, and the difference between male and female brains, and, you know, if that is actually biological, but actually how much our brain is built by our culture and how we're brought up and our influences, and the impact that has on how women put themselves into the music industry, the roles they take, and the risks that they maybe don't take.
I have been called the wrong side of assertive
Yes.
in my career, so that is and I wouldn't move my drum kit on the stage. I would echo again confidence within the young women and the young artists and techs that we work with is the biggest barrier, I think, for them, and is why the kind of our girls can environment where it is all women is so valuable and important, because the young women, it's a really nurturing space, and people feel that it's a safe enough space to kind of make mistakes or take risks or try something new, and build that confidence up. And in that sense, I guess, I've worked with, you know, all my friends are boys. When I was at school, I've hung out with lads. And a lot of my team are male, but there is a difference. I do notice a difference in when it's purely women in the room. There's kind of a slight, sometimes for the work, you never know. But in this case, yeah, there is a different energy.
Yes, from my own experience, I can say that women are often treated differently, and I was once part of a research about female professors, and then the guy who made this research sent me results, and it turned out that in Britain female professors have quite different role than male professors. They are often put in charge of administrative role, and I know it myself, as Tony knows, as I'm a head of research in my school, they're often more engaged in mentoring, which I also know from my experience, while, let's say, the pure research jobs are more often allocated to men. Whether it's good or bad, this might be presented as a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a necessarily a bad thing. I think mentoring is really a great experience, and I think we should do it. Just moving slightly to a different area, which was also part of the discussion before, but maybe not explicitly, was the question of portfolio career. I think some of you, and I think Anne also to a large extent, you have a portfolio career being both a lawyer but also being involved in the research or academic side of your work. I think there are two sides of that. We are all encouraged to have portfolio careers because this brings a chance to prolong our career and also develop and so on. But there are also disadvantages of portfolio career, because if you are in too many places, you might not develop your skills as well as otherwise you could. If you focus on one area, you might be overlooked somewhere, your network might be wider, but also somehow more shallower. So I wonder what is your view on that, and how much in your choice of having portfolio career was to do with your interests, and how much was to do with the necessity?
Well, I guess like I just said, my career just went from I was in the right place at the right time, and it just went on from there. But that doesn't help anybody out there who wants to have a career. I can sit here all day and talk about what I've done, but it doesn't help people out there. So, I now, well, first of all, during the pandemic, I wrote a book called Confessions of a Female Tour Manager, and I put it on Amazon. It was picked up by a publishing company, Sandstone, and it's been rewritten, and it comes out next year. And like I said, I love to take the mickey out of, I think it's because what we've all talked about, girls, today, is the fact that we are actually a better sex than the men. When it comes down to it, we are far better than they are, sorry guys. But we can do so many things. So I wrote my book, and it's called Lipstick and Leather. So it comes out the 6th of April next year, and I'm very excited about that, and that came from, like I say, me doing that and putting it out on Amazon. But I also find that we need to really encourage other people. So now I spend 3 days of my week actually doing Zoom calls with people that are stuck in their musical careers. You know, you can be the best singer in the world and you can get overlooked. And if you're not careful, you can spend 10 years of your life being overlooked, and that's nowhere to live. No way on earth to live. So you need to find other ways of fulfilling your dreams. Like I said, I wanted to be a singer, I can't sing. But I had the best touring life that anybody, even the best musician, could wish for. So there's no excuse. You can look at doing something different if it's not happening for you. And it's not because you're not any good at it. You could be the world's best. It's just that at that time it wasn't your moment. You were supposed to go somewhere else. You know, so it doesn't matter. So I talk to people for 3 days a week. I'm going to plug now. You can have a look at my new website that's just come out called kimtn.com. And basically, I do hourly sessions with people. And we talk about other things to do within your little niche, what you're good at. And we find out what you're good at, and we talk about these things. I also talk to people that have been on tour, and it's only just been noted, and it's actually 2 specialists in Germany that found out this, that people that have toured a lot actually come out and with post-traumatic stress disorder, because all their life they've been told what to do, when to get up, when to go to work, where to go to work, checked on the work they've done, where to go to eat, when to go to bed, and they're told that all the time, and then suddenly they get home, and you could be on tour for years. You know, you can be on tour for 3 years, and you get home and suddenly you've got no work for the next 6 months. What do you do? You are suddenly, oh my gosh, there's no food in the cupboard. I don't know what to do. And people panic about that, and it's something that we've all got to talk about. So I like to help people out like that. I'm somewhere that people can go to talk to, because I've suffered it as well. I've come back off tour and sat there thinking, I should be doing something now. Kim, relax, you've got time off. I can't relax because I should be phoning somebody, I should be sending an email off to somebody, and there's nobody to talk to. So that's what I like to do now.
Can I just ask
Yeah.
you, the book that you wrote, was the book the beginning of the mentoring, or was the mentoring first before the book?
It's interesting that you said before that you just written a book. I wrote my book. I quit in 2009, and I cared for my mum until 2017. We used to joke about the fact that of what my career had done. My mum was a school teacher, and she was a single parent and put up with so much from everybody around her, the fact that her daughter had run off with a pop group. That's what they used to say in those days. How can you let your daughter run off with a pop group? And especially when these long-haired people are right over there for everybody to see on top of the pops, they were like, God, she's let her daughter run off with them. I hadn't run off. I was actually getting more money than half of they were. So, you know, I took the time out to care for her like she had encouraged me in my situation. So in that bit we started to talk about stories, and things started to come out, and then I thought, you know what, I need to write all these down, so I did. And then, yeah, it was just something that sort of happened, because you forget that years are going by, and suddenly I've now got a 27-year-old daughter, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, at her age I was doing this, and it sent shivers down my spine. It scares me. But yeah, she was going like, Mum, you should tell people about this.
Is she proud of you?
Very good. So that's good.
So we come in on the portfolio career thing, because I think it is a thing that every musician, everyone that's trying to make a living out of music or the arts at the moment is sort of, oh, you're great, you've got a portfolio career. And I started out with the same. I was playing as a musician, I was teaching, I had a sort of PAYE, a proper job at an arts venue doing a music education programme, so it was a real mishmash. And again, every time I should be sending, what should I be doing now, where should I be, look at my diary every day, and I think it gave me the opportunity to make things happen for myself, and to set up projects, and to have a platform to kind of just do stuff and go, you know, let's do a project working with children at risk of exclusion. We'll go on some drumming workshops, and we'll send them to a festival. And, you know, all those kind of things, those ideas you could make happen. But that then gave me the sort of opportunity to apply for sort of more managing type jobs. Although I still wanted to be in jobs where I could have those ideas and see them through. So I think as long as I'm able to have that kind of creativity in my life, I'm fine. But people start coming to you and kind of going, right, I'd like to be in that kind of world, or I'd like to have more teaching, or what can I do? And it's really hard, because on one level you can just make stuff happen for yourself, but on the other level it takes a huge amount of work, being in the right place at the right time, knowing the right people, having the right connections, just having the energy as well to kind of just go out there and make it happen for yourself, either as an artist or an educator or whatever that is. And also the career progression, there's nothing linear about it, and I think we've gone from a world, certainly in music services, where people had a full-time sort of teaching contract, if you like, as teachers, and they had holidays and they had sick pay, and for the last 6 years, as a music service, we have been told we're only allowed to take people on a self-employed basis. And now that suits some people really, really well, but others it really doesn't. And I think that there is definitely a double-edged sword to this whole kind of portfolio career and the kind of opportunities that brings.
No, I have to agree with you. There's pros and, I think there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
Maybe you want to...
No, I'll probably just echo what Cath said. I think there's pros and cons to having portfolio careers. Done all sorts. So played in bands, done session, been a session musician, taught in FE colleges. I have a part-time job in more music, not full-time. therefore have done other things around it. But there's a shortage of funding in the arts and voluntary sector, which means that people have to have portfolio careers. Because and the pandemic, and so people have had to diversify and find different things to do. But also, it does enable building a portfolio career and having all those different skills and utilising them does enable you to make a living out of music. And it might not be being the performer or being, Adele or whoever, but it does mean that you can earn a living from being creative and doing the thing that you love, and finding your skills in different areas. So, pros and cons.
I would agree. I mean, I didn't start writing until I'd been alive for 20 years, and I wrote without the support of the company I was a partner in. They thought I would be giving away the trade secrets, and therefore I shouldn't write it. And I said, no, the trick is you challenge just enough so that they know they're going to come to you for the full answer. Anyway, no support. I wrote it in evenings and weekends because I had a creative impulse to do something other than just be a linear lawyer. But also because I detected there was a need. There was an American book by Donald Passman, which I didn't read before I wrote mine because I knew I'd be influenced by it. But somebody, a tour manager actually, said, I'm now working for Virgin Publishing and I think you could write the UK's Donald Passman. And I thought, well, that's a hell of a thing to say. You don't even know if I can write a sentence. And what he said, no, but I've heard you explain a record contract to a band. So if you can do that same voice, it doesn't matter if you can get the punctuation in the right spot. If I, as a lawyer, can't get the punctuation in the right place, we're in trouble. So anyway, it was much later. Lawyers, I don't think, can have portfolio careers to be really successful because our big challenge is getting home before midnight most days. Especially if you've got, a US, Australian, and a UK deal going on at the same time. It's like, okay, I'll see you in 2 weeks' time. The management I have to do in the office is to make sure our young people do have a life. And pandemic was very, very hard from that perspective. But I would acknowledge, I think, and I'm not sure if it's a good thing, actually, that in order to succeed, you have to have a portfolio career in this industry now because of all the reasons you've given, but also because a lot of artists are now taking advantage of new technology and are steering away from the big label deals. They are actually doing it themselves. You are a classic example of it. And you have to be multi-talented. You have to learn, the technology, the accounting, the legal contracts. You have to become a portfolio person in order to reach your end goal. And there is a huge increase in that kind of business. And people can be an artist and an influencer. We have a huge influencer practice now, which we didn't even exist 3 years ago. There are careers now being invented on a daily basis that nobody even knew existed, a month ago. So portfolio is here to stay, but in my corner of the world, I couldn't have been a successful lawyer unless I was doing it 150%. So.
Yes, it's longer term with Rachel because I've volunteered with her as part of the youth leadership team. I would be where I was without Rachel's help.
Very nice to hear and congratulations. And you partly answered the question which I wanted to ask you, namely about the influence of technology on your position and the world of women in music at large. I wonder if any of you would like to talk about it. You already largely answered.
Yeah. I'll try this.
This one? Oh, it is.
I remember when Cubase arrived when I was about 15, which is like the first kind of music production sort of digital audio workstation, and it just blew my mind. It was absolutely amazing. And the fact that young people now have access to that on their mobile phones free is just amazing. The thing that worries me is, again, the confidence and the kind of creating stuff and putting it out there and giving girls the kind of the confidence to be able to kind of do that, and not kind of, sort of be, oh, it's technology, it's not my thing. And it rolls on all, seeing people doing it, having the opportunity to do it in school. A project we're working on at the moment, we've got a music technology strategy, and we're working with Ableton. We've got an exciting new project coming up where we're going to try and get Ableton in every secondary school in Lancashire, and just to have access to that kind of technology as a young person would be incredible. But going back to the portfolio career thing, a musician, even a classical musician who's kind of going to a conservatoire today, has to have music technology skills. Just like you'd learn to put up a music stand or to, whatever other music, it's just a part of being a musician now. So I think it's absolutely vital that is offered on an equal basis and girls feel empowered to take full advantage of it.
It's good that you're actually doing that, because as a teacher, a music teacher myself for 20 years, that has been my primary objective all the time when I've worked in schools.
Yeah.
And I was left for like 20 years with 8 guitars and 8 keyboards, and I was always saying about, how are we going to do that? I mean, even you saying they're doing a project now, I mean, it's 2022.
Yeah.
It should have happened a long time ago. Building sort of recording studios and things like that within schools doesn't seem to be very important. Yet they'll all have a radio station, and I've had many a row about it. You won't put the money into the kids, are not going to be interested.
And it's the skills as well. It's partly the technology, but definitely the skills and the confidence of teachers to be able to.
If you can get a bit more voices about what the current technologies, because empower women.
Just a fun bit of this, I've had to reinvent myself yet again, because now we have NFT contracts coming through, and to my head in, because I have to know it, because the clients are coming to me and saying, I want to fund my next record by issuing an NFT, and you go, really? Okay, so then I go and immerse myself in a dark room until I actually understand what it is, but there is an opportunity in this, because there are relatively few people that do know their way around this from the business, legal end of things. So the younger, today, is it Friday? No, tomorrow, my entire team is doing a course on blockchain and smart contracts and NFTs, because some of them will prove to be quite adept at it and will actually then market themselves as being able to advise people who are putting their toe in this water.
What is NFT?
Non-fungible token. It's the sort of virtual reality crypto.
I know ETF is.
You can see all these acronyms that we have today. There are opportunities also with technology. We need not be afraid of them. My kind of decision is, do I invest my time in this at my stage of my career, or do I just get all of those over there to do it? And so tomorrow, all of those over there.
I just want to tell you a quick story about technology, which goes back quite a few years, but it was when laptops first came out, and I was about to go to Germany, and I had 2 days, and I had a phone call from the record company that said, do you have a laptop? And I said, no. And they went, okay, go get yourself one. So I was like, okay, what are they called? Where do I go? You need an Apple Mac. I'm like, right, who's going to pay for this? It's like, it's fine, we'll pay for it. So I went to the shop and I bought myself this amazing Apple computer laptop, and it weighed a ton, and I took it on the plane with me, and I felt so cool, because everybody was staring at this bag, and I got there, and I thought, shit, how do I turn it on? So I figured it out, and I turned it on, and I thought, right, okay, that's cool. So I got it all organised. The next day, I went into this huge meeting, and there were the promoter was there, the promoter's agent was there, and 2 people from the record company were there, and there was me. And we all had these brand spanking computers, and we all opened them up, and nobody could see each other's screens, but we're all there. And I thought, God, they know what they're doing. They were all like doing this, that, and the other. And I found solitaire. So I turned solitaire on and I played solitaire for the whole time, and they thought I knew exactly what I was doing. Now that night in the bar when we all sat down and going like, that was great, got this done, that done, it's like, yeah, but my solitaire score was really bad. I'm like, what, you were playing solitaire? Yeah, well, so was I. Really? Well, I was too. Everybody on that table was playing solitaire because we'd all been told to go out and buy these amazing computers, but none of us knew how to work them.
I think it's really time we have to wrap it up. Sorry, Rachel, that you had no chance. I think it was a great panel. Thank you a lot. And I think the very short conclusion from all this discussion is that confidence is the most important characteristic women need to have to succeed in music. So thanks a lot.